Let's bring in Victorian Shadow Minister Dr. Matt Bach and Natalie Davis, a senior teacher from Queensland with experience in some of its biggest and toughest schools. Now, Matt, thanks for joining me. There's a clear correlation between those nations with a culture that emphasises strong families, parental involvement in children's education, and an industrious work ethic, and those nations which lead the PISA or International Performance Tables. In contrast, Australian teachers report a correlation between their underperforming students and the evidence of the breakdown of the role of parents in the family. Disengaged parents, the trauma of family breakdown, one or more absent parents, whether that's due to work commitments or as a result of dysfunction, stand in the shadow of children who aren't reaching their potential. Matt, what's the right policy response to this pressing problem?
So many of the recommendations that you just spoke about in your preamble, Amanda, are, I think, fine in and of themselves. I don't have a problem with what Minister Clare put forward, for example, but they're band-aids. They don't get to the foundational, to the fundamental issues. And as you said, first and foremost, that's got to be around making significant reforms to the curriculum. You're right. As a former school teacher myself, I can tell you that the curriculum is so cluttered. And then that comes to the second point you made, and you made it very strongly in an article that I read of yours in the Financial Review earlier this week too, Amanda, that we as parents need to take significant responsibility for a whole range of things that probably well-meaning politicians and bureaucrats have now pushed onto teachers. I care about things like obesity and personal hygiene, even gardening. These are things that teachers are being expected now to deal with at school. That should be for us at home, so that teachers have the time and space to do what they want to do and what they love doing, which is helping our kids to make sure they can read, write and do sums.
Quite right, Matt. You know, teachers are reporting also the devastating impact of technology on basic skills. You know, it's more than just the distraction of social media and phones in high school. We've got children coming to primary school without the basic social and conversational skills that are the product of having your parents talk to you for the 5 years prior. How do we help parents to step up at home?
Well, I think sometimes, quite frankly, tough love is the answer. I started school in the late 80s, and I came from a home where there was a huge emphasis on education, but pretty quickly I started to develop problems, and by grade 2, I couldn't read at all. And so my local state primary school spoke with mum and dad and said, well, sorry, in his best interest, he's got to stay down. And then I had amazing state school teachers who helped me ultimately overcome my problems. But that never happens nowadays. We've had big discussions recently about rising truancy rates. And quite frankly, I blame idiotic state government decisions for this, in particular here in Victoria, where schools were closed for 7 terms in a row. No wonder so many kids are anxious. But the fix will not come from government. It will be coming from parents who display tough love to make sure they actually get their kids to the school gate in the first place, which I think comes back to your ongoing point, Amanda, about a culture of valuing education. And we all, teachers, school leaders, bureaucrats, politicians, and certainly parents, have a part to play in that.
You've pointed out the issues with truancy, but boys' education is in crisis too. Boys' results just keep going down. One teacher up here told me he's dealing with a generation of lost boys without male teachers, too few present fathers, and a consistent message that their masculinity is toxic rather than something about which to be confident and proud. Their school performance seems to be a symptom of a bigger problem facing men. Matt, what do we do about this?
Look, those issues are issues that I'm really glad you're talking about, Amanda, because I think as a society we find that really difficult. Directly before coming into Parliament 3 years ago, I was head of a large girls' secondary school here in Melbourne. And so I'm passionate about making sure that young girls get the message that, quite frankly, historically they didn't get, that, for example, they could do just as well, if not better than the boys, in STEM subjects like science and maths. And so that focus is quite right. But at the same time, when you look at the data across school and also across university, it's young men who are struggling most. I think certainly something practical that we can do is to lift the standing of the teaching profession in the community. I went into teaching out of university because I thought it was the best profession out there, but we've got to convince more young men, more men who are performing really well in other professions to move in, because I agree with you, a part of it, just a part of it, is about really good, really strong role modelling.
Yeah, good point. Natalie, you would see in the classroom good, hard-working parents of your kids who are stretched to the limit by work, businesses, mortgages, and just keeping it all together. And I understand that. I've got some sympathy for it. But homework and reading to the children become the casualties of that frenetic pace. At what point do we have to have a wider conversation in our society about the way that social change has given much more freedom and choice to women and men in careers and family, but it also has costs that we haven't been pricing in to date?
That's right. You're completely right, Amanda. There is a cost to educating children, and that priority, first of all, rests on the parent and then the school. It is truly a partnership. But there is a bigger issue here in regard to what you've mentioned. It's not about throwing money at the education system and saying, hey, you've missed all this school, we'll throw you some money and that'll fix everything. There's a lot more to that. One of the big concerns that I have had for many years now, which has been a disincentive, Matt talked about when he was in year 2 and having to repeat. The problem is that, Matt, that doesn't happen anymore, as you probably well know. In actual fact, Amanda, and I'm sure that your viewers are going to be absolutely amazed by this reality, but you can fail, a child can fail every single subject, fail to submit every single assessment, and still move on to the next year level. If we want to know why we continue to have poor results across all of these years, it's because there's no longer any boundaries or barriers to say, actually, it's not okay to fail. We've actually created this culture where it's okay to fail. We've created a culture where parents decide, pick and choose of which subjects they want their kids to be okay with, you know. And so they don't even, a lot of parents don't even look at the reports. Schools don't even send reports home anymore. They just email them and hope that parents actually view them at some point. Many don't. So we've got, and that's come about because of useless reports. If we look at the reporting system, parents need to know what their kids are good at. What are they good at? What are they not good at? If you look at a report these days, it's completely and utterly useless.
There's a lot of platitudes. There's a lot of platitudes.
A lot of schools, absolutely. A lot of schools are now actually have removed their comments altogether. So your child is just getting an A to E rating.
Tell me, Natalie.
The reality is.
Sorry, Natalie, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Tell me, what is this administrative burden like, and how much a teacher is being expected to do as an extra to the time that they're supposed to be using for class prep?
I think a lot of that is school to school. There have been some schools that I've been at where it's been absolutely ridiculous, and not just the administration side, but the emailing. Probably where I've seen the majority of the administration is in the behaviour management side, where everything has to be followed through and logged and processes taken. I think these days students get there's more detentions on offer for being in having the wrong socks on than there is for failing to submit an assessment task. So as a teacher, that's been a bit of a bug burden for me. The other side of it would be in terms of learning support. When you know that a child should be on an individual education program, also known as an IEP or ICP, and you're given so many hurdles to try and jump over to get that, and some schools will just put so many stops in the way that they make it practically impossible for that to be enacted, which makes it very, very difficult when you know that a student is not up to the year level that they should be in. The schools refuse to repeat students because, oh my goodness, that could affect their social well-being somewhere along the line. And so teachers are left in the middle saying, well, what do I do? He's going to fail or she's going to fail, but yet I can't get them on the program that they need to be, which is at the level that they're currently working at. Because, hey, really we're all inclusive, and inclusive education is all amazing, isn't it?
There's something really bizarre about not being able to hold someone back a year, and also forcing kids who don't want to be at the upper end of school anymore and would be better off doing a trade or being out working, being forced to stay.